Well, we are into the fourth round here at Roland Garros, and I have a feeling, I have a sense that it's about to heat up because we've seen some pretty crazy matches so far, some upsets, a lot of challenger level players making their way deep into this tournament, which is great to see. You'll love to see it for the next gen. But we're going to take a deeper look at who's been looking the best out of Nadal, Djokovic, and Thiem. I have some interesting thoughts on that, and we're going to take a look at their potential routes from here on out. I can tell you one thing, it's definitely going to get tougher. So there's lots to get into, a gentlemanly act from Novak Djokovic so far in the latest match, and lots of stuff. So let's get into it here on The Slice.
So I don't have many bagels.
Welcome to The Slice.
Welcome to The Slice.
Welcome to The Slice.
Thanks for being here as always, folks. Click that like button to help us out and subscribe, obviously. If you're new here, thank you for subscribing, and we're on the route to 10,000 people in the community on YouTube. So it's amazing. Thank you for joining the crew. We just released a video of myself trying to emulate Dominic Thiem on the clay courts at our new partner, Bear Mountain. So the link is right here. You can click it and go there and watch the video. It's an awesome video with some great coaching at the best tennis resort in Western Canada. So check it out. The links are all below. We love our sponsors here. It's also bagel time, clearly, at this year's French Open. Like, the pastry hats are out. We've seen Nadal, Simona Halep, Novak Djokovic just distributing bagels at will, at ease. So we're gonna look at who's looked the best so far. But first, I love to give credit where credit's due. I criticize where it's due, and I give credit where it's due. And Novak Djokovic deserves some sweet credit because in his match versus the qualifier, or the lucky loser, Guillen, I don't know how to exactly say it. Anyways, there was a light rain at the start of the match, and Djokovic is like, why don't you just close the roof, and then the rain won't be a factor? And the guy's like, no. And I just never have gotten that. When it's windy, it's different. But when it's raining, it's like, if it's going to maybe rain, why don't you just have it closed when you have a roof? So they didn't close it, and then it started to get heavier, and this Guillen guy was like, yeah, it's getting pretty wet back here. And then the camera panned, and you can literally see like puddles in the clay. And the next point, Djokovic puts one behind him, and he just slips out, Guillen. And he could have like literally torn his ACL, like I've seen some of my teammates before tear their knees that way. And it's just, and Djokovic just sees that and he goes, what are we doing? And he just walks off the court and stops play until the roof gets completely closed. And then, but that's just the enemy. It's just a gentlemanly move from Novak, and serious props for that. Because I don't know what the French Tennis Federation does. Like, it's just, they have to do everything differently. And it seems to be worse than all the other Grand Slams. Just little of my opinion there. So, anyways, who's looked the best so far? I think that if we look at who each player's played, it tells a lot about the sport, or a lot about this story. So Djokovic has looked unreal. Nadal, unreal. Thiem, also unreal. The difference is that Djokovic and Nadal really haven't played anyone that should even challenge them at all remotely. Nadal especially now. I thought Djokovic had the easier draw at the start because he didn't have Thiem or Nadal on his side. But so far, it's been pretty peachy for Nadal. It's honestly, literally, you could take this 4-person lineup and put it in like any challenger around the. And this is not a diss to challenger level players. Kudos to them for getting this far. But I don't know if it's given Nadal the necessary reps he needs to get to that level when he plays like a really hot Zverev or a hot Thiem or someone like that. So I asked on Instagram, is that concerning to the Nadal fans? Some people said, yeah, it is. Some people said, no, it helps him get back into it. We'll see. He's obviously had to adapt a little bit to play in the slower conditions, and he's done that. He's still the king of clay. His topspin's still going to do serious damage, and he's been toying with people. Djokovic, on the other hand, with the slower conditions, he's being able to stand up on the baseline more, take the ball on the rise, and just dictate, redirect angles, and just absolutely pick people apart. Again, hasn't had the stiffest competition at all. So we don't really know what these guys' like real levels at when he plays someone who's tougher, and which will happen in the next round. We'll get to that. But then you look at Dominic Thiem, who also hasn't dropped a set and has looked dominant, but he's played 3 guys who should be ranked, really. He's played Cilic in the first round. So Cilic has won a Grand Slam, obviously. That's a great matchup in the first round. Dominated him 3 sets. And then Jack Sock, obviously on the comeback train, but still a good player. And then he played a really hot Casper Ruud and honestly just outpowered him, outclassed him. So to me, if you're looking at who's looked the best so far, you got to give it to Dominic Thiem because he's had the same performance as far as like scores and like sets as Nadal and Djokovic, but he's played much tougher opponents. So will that help him out? Because I think from here on out, it's actually a little bit it's not as bad. The next 2 rounds aren't so bad for Dominic Thiem. So if he can keep it up physically, then that should be good. So let's look at the possible routes for these 3 guys. We got Thiem could play Gaston next, who the young Frenchman, took out Wawrinka in the last round. Wawrinka destroyed Andy Murray earlier, but then he looked honestly not very good against Gaston at all. He looked out of shape. I don't know what was happening. So Gaston played great, got through. Thiem should win that without any problems, I don't think. And then he could play Schwartzman in the quarterfinals, and then obviously Nadal in the semifinals, and then Djokovic in the finals. So the finals is like obviously where Thiem wants to be, and that's where his ultimate test is going to be. But he's picking up steam, and he's looking very good. So he could be super dangerous, obviously. We knew that from the beginning. Djokovic plays Karen Khachanov in the next round. I don't think this should be a huge problem for him at all, although Khachanov is a huge hitter. He just doesn't seem like the type of guy, especially on clay, who could get it done against Djokovic. Maybe on a fast, hard court if Djokovic was off. But I think Djokovic won't be able to stand as close on the baseline as he has to these other guys. So it might change up his tactic a little bit. And honestly, when Gillen was hitting better at the end of this match, and when he was hitting a bit bigger, Djokovic wasn't as comfortable. When he wasn't as comfortable, he wasn't looking as good. So this will be interesting. It'll be a good test for Djokovic in the 4th round versus Khachanov. And then he could be Pablo Carreño Busta, who is technically the only player to have beat Djokovic so far in 2020. And Djokovic fans are obviously going to say, well, he didn't beat him, he defaulted. It's like, true, well, he did default when he was down a set in the match. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. Pablo Carreño Busta on clay could be another test. Still shouldn't take out Djokovic. And then he could either play Tsitsipas or Rublev or maybe Dimitrov. That's the quarter of opportunity, okay? Tsitsipas, Rublev, Dimitrov are in this corner with a route to the semifinals. I think that would be big for any of them. Rublev's the second hottest player on the ATP Tour in 2020. We got, other than Thiem, obviously, who's won a slam. But we got Tsitsipas, who's looked very good. I've been super proud of how he's turned it around after a tough 5-setter in the first round. And then obviously in the final, he's either going to play, Nadal, Thiem, maybe Zverev, possibly, if really some crazy stuff went down. So Djokovic, he's definitely got a tougher route from here on out. I wouldn't say that's going to be a cakewalk by any means. So now we're into the business end, the second week of the slam. For Nadal, it's Sebastian Korda, who's a great young player, 6'5", could hit the ball bigger, could possibly do some damage. Definitely won't lose that, though, unless something crazy happened. And then he can play either Zverev or Sinner. Both guys would be tough if they brought their A game on clay, especially in these conditions. For Nadal, that could be a serious challenge. I don't expect him to lose either of those, but if Zverev is playing great, he did win the last time they met, so he could have some confidence coming into that. You never know what happens. You just never know. If he gets that through that, he's going to play Thiem and then Djokovic. So from here on out for these 3 guys, it definitely is getting tougher. Let's take a quick look at the 4th round matchups in just in general here. We got, like I said, Djokovic, Khachanov, and then we got Pablo Carreño Busta versus Altmaier from Germany. Crazy upset versus Berrettini. He's a qualifier, and he's into the 4th round. This is it's the French Open. It's the land of opportunity. It's absolutely amazing. And then we got Fucsovic, who took out Medvedev first round. He's into the 4th round playing Andrei Rublev. That'll be a good match. And then we got Dimitrov versus Tsitsipas. That's just going to be some beautiful tennis. You just know that. You just know that right off the hop. 2 single-handed backhands. Guys, love them both. I think, Tsitsipas is the better player at this point in their career, I think, but it'll be an interesting match. Then on the bottom half, we got Sonego versus Diego Schwartzman in the 4th round to get to the quarterfinals. Crazy for both of them. Not so much for Schwartzman, but he's playing great, obviously. And then we got Gaston versus Thiem, Zverev versus Sinner, another blockbuster. If you love tennis, you have to watch that match. It's going to be crazy. And then Korda versus Nadal. So we got some great matches lined up here in the 4th round. The 4th round is always, I think, where it gets really interesting in slams. And yeah, when we were talking about the 3 guys who I talked about in our preview, Djokovic, Nadal, Thiem, they're the big 3 now. Who's looked the best? They've all looked great. But I think teams had the most testing. So we'll see how that plays out when all their matches get tougher. So pretty interesting stuff here. Who do you see winning now? Also, shout out to Tamid Salah. I hopped on his show, the Tennis Forum with Tamid, I think it's called. We'll link to it and we'll post it in the community chat. We had a great talk about who Federer would want to win, Djokovic or Nadal, if they played in the final in this tournament. Who would he rather take over his records if that's going to happen? So that was fun. He also said I followed him since he started and he's followed me. So it's been awesome. Check that out. This has been The Slice. Check out our Bear Mountain video. Get yourself a mug. Support the show. Thank you for all the love. We will see you for the quarterfinal preview in 2 days' time. And it is getting super juicy here at the French Open. I can't wait.